What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Run It Up. It's been a minute. I want to do something a little bit different today, and I've recorded a couple deep runs that I've made in this last month of World Series of Poker Online. If you're not familiar, the World Series of Poker this year is running all their events online because of this thing called, I don't know, it's like the Corona. I'm not really paying attention. But in any case, I wanted to kind of go through this with you. I haven't watched it since I played it. But I've recorded every single hand that I've played during this run, and I think it'll be a lot of fun to go back and watch it with you, and we'll laugh at some things I did. Maybe we'll marvel at my genius at various moments, and generally have a good time. The best place to get in touch with me is on Twitter or Discord. Our Run It Up Discord is probably the best place to get in touch, and then Twitter at Jason Somerville or at Run It Up. Before we get started, I kind of wanted to chat a minute. I had told people that I was planning to stream WSOP online events during the month of July, and that just didn't happen. I haven't been like kidnapped or anything. My life is great right now. I'm kind of in just like I don't know. I feel like I'm in kind of a place where I like the routine that I'm in. I'm in a very healthy rhythm. I've been eating clean, working out for whatever that means for unathletic, dirty basement kid me. And generally just been happy. I've just been peaceful, chilling, just tranquil, and I haven't really had the urge to hop on stream and broadcast any of these events. I've really kind of just been playing them on the couch, kind of high as shit, no pants on. I don't know. Not that I need pants to record video because I'm certainly not wearing them now. But yeah, I don't know. I've kind of just been relaxing. I'm not really sure what my future holds in terms of content. I'm still pretty young in the grand scheme of things, and I kind of just feel like 2020, I'm just going to sort of play it by ear, kind of just relax and find times where it makes sense to create content for you guys, whether it's on YouTube or Twitch. So a little something different here. I know some of you guys have been disappointed that you didn't see me stream every single one of these tourneys, but it just didn't really fit into my desires. So, but I wanted to give you guys something, so here we are. Enough preamble. Let's get into it. So I guess let's start by talking about what we've got here. So it was the second event of the World Series of Poker Online, $1,000 no limit hold'em, 8-handed. As of this moment, when I hit the record button, I was already in fourth place. Holla! With 145 left. We're 2 places off the money in cash, about $1,480. First place, I think, was like $130K. You can't see here, but I'm sure I scroll up eventually. So, okay, with that being said, let's get the cards in the air. Like I said, every single hand I played is in this video from this point on. So, there'll be some fun ones. Let's get into it. In a second, we're going to get into it. I'm not going to edit this out either. Ha, ha, ha. I've done enough editing for you guys. So there. Okay, first hand, ace, king. So we're not in the money yet. This is the hand prior to getting in the money. Obviously, ace, king, very strong here. All these short stacks. I've got heaps. I have more chips than almost all of my opponents combined, lol. So yeah, obviously this is just going to be all in pretty much regardless of what happens. And you could do something fancy here, consider like limping or something, let him shove, but that's just not what we're doing here. We're the big stack, right? We got to put the pressure on here on the bubble, and I think we're just going to shove with almost all of our hands, and ace king certainly qualifies. And we are hand for hand play, and then boom, we cashed the tournament. That's right. All right, thanks for watching, guys. See you later. Bye. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. Pocket eights, first hand after. Now, remember, there might be a break in time, so we might be new tables. People might bust out because I didn't really do like a ... in between every hand. So you just have to move with me here to keep this thing rolling. So pocket eights in the middle position. We decide to raise to 26,000. I should have probably just made it 24,000. There's not really any reason to put the extra soda on top of the 24K here with no small blind and the big blind being pretty short stacked. So I typically make it a little bit bigger if the blinds have more chips, but there's not even a small blind in this pot. So I think I should just make it 24K. Interesting that we get 3-bet by the other big stack here, and I think we have our first interesting spot. So clearly can't fold, right? Our hand is just too good. The question is, do we move all in or call? Because I don't think there's an option of like 170K and then fold. So the question is, do we call or do we shove? And which of those is better? And I think it's probably very close. I don't know anything about this guy. That's always the first question is, what history do we have? Is the guy tight? Is the guy loose? I have no clue. The dude is whale 321 with the same avatar as half the site. So it doesn't really mean anything to me. I don't recognize the person, which makes me less inclined to shove, but it doesn't really matter that much. I would bet that the correct strategy in this spot is to call sometimes and maybe shove sometimes, some sort of a mix. But we do have a lot of chips here. It's a pretty slow tournament, so I prefer calling. Let's see what younger / past Jason thought. In the tank, what will we do? Will we press the call button or will we raise all in? Dun-dun, dun-dun. Okay, we do call. I like that. I think that's fine. Pretty good flop for us, all things considered. We're going to start here with a check. And we're going to check almost all the time out of position here against pre-flop re-raiser. And my intention is to check call this flop. We probably have the best hand more likely than not. 10 is not that scary. He shouldn't have that many 10x hands that re-raises pre-flop, although of course he could have ace 10, jack 10 suited sometimes, stuff like that. He gives us a very easy button to press, which is just call. I don't really think we want to shove here. Yes, we do give him a chance to get there with any high card on the turn, right? Turn card, jack, queen, king, ace are all scary for us. So you could arguably just say, do I have the best hand right here, right now, and then move all in? But I think call is probably the response we usually make against a small bet here. So we check on the turn, of course, and now I would be facing a tough decision if you were to shove or bet a lot. It would be tough, but he checks and lets us off the hook and also lets me off having to explain what I would do. So on the river, at this point, I feel pretty confident that I have the best hand, but I'm not really sure of the merits of betting because what is he going to call us with that's worse than this? Does he even call with ace king if I bet? I'm not so sure about that. So I think I just say check and then we'll make a decision if he shoves or bets the river. He could definitely play some hands better than ours this way sometimes. Like, it's not that many, but sometimes. In any case, he checks back, and hopefully I show you guys what he had. He did have king, queen, offsuit. So I gave him all the chances post-flop to potentially get there, but I think we played our hand extremely reasonably, all things considered, and we add more chips to the pile. Hello. 10-9 offsuit here. Make a pair and a gut shot. Defend the big blind against the hijack raise. Start with the check, of course. We are almost always checking as the big blind against pre-flop raiser, especially when it comes to 3 high cards like this. And I absolutely must check call this flop. There's no other option in my mind. We have bottom pair. We have a gut shot. I could have the best hand. I'm an optimistic fella. All these things equals calling, and we're rewarded for our optimism right there with the smacking 10 on the turn. I could arguably bet out on this turn, right? This is a turn card that is a little bit better for me than for him, and I do need some protection against things like clubs and potentially like, I guess I don't really need protection against like an ace. Like, ace is the only card because if he has a jack, he makes a straight because the 9 makes us a full house. So anyway, I could have bet the turn. I didn't. Now that we're here, I feel like it is on us to value bet this river, and we do get snap called here. Let me pause for a second. I think we must bet the river when it goes check, check, turn. He does have queen X, king X. Sometimes that will call. Very rarely does he have a better hand than ours and check the turn, unless it's a full house, which I guess is possible, but kind of hard. We have a 10, so I mean, you could have king, king, queen, queen, king 10, queen 10. All those are possible. But I still think we make more money by betting ourselves on the river. Because if we check and he has a hand like king 8, does king 8 even bet this river? What's king 8 getting called by, really? I mean, this seems to me like probably better as a bet ourselves to force him to call with a hand like a king or a queen. And you'd have ace king all in all there. So I got pretty lucky. Jack was no good. 10 or a 9 is what we needed, and 10 is what we found. I could have made a little bit more on the river, maybe. I bet 2/3 pot where I could have bet more, but I didn't think he was super strong, and I didn't really want him to fold a king or a queen, so I kind of priced it to be affordable. Ace 3 suited here on the button. Short stack, small blind, big stack, big blind. I think we just make it 25,000, 26,000, 26,500. Sure, you're a beautiful little butterfly. Pick whatever you want. If the small blind moves all in, ace 3 suited has to call for under 10 big blinds. No question here. What you gonna do, whale? I gotta add like a heartbeat for the next time I do this so we can really sweat it out. Dun, 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 dun. What are you gonna do, buddy? Call. Okay. We make bottom pair. No backdoor flush draw for us. I think this is a spot I like to check more than bet. Certainly bet is okay, but it really sucks to bet and get raised because now we're playing a bigger pot than I really want to play with bottom pair. Whereas I'm pretty content with just checking and kind of playing this hand defensive, right? Like, let's try to show this hand down and see what happens. I can call on basically every turn card, including this one. And if he checks to us, it does put me in a spot where it's like, well, do I want to bet and get some protection here against, every card in the deck, basically? Or do I just check and keep the pot small? I go with checking and keeping the pot small, but I do think there is some merit into betting the turn for, like I said, some protection. But it's a little scary because you bet the turn, he has more straights than we do, right? He has 4 deuce suited, 7-4 suited. He has more 2 pairs and things like that. So I do get myself into situations where I might get bluffed sometimes on turns if I bet, just because I'm probably not checking enough on the flop with gut shots and other sort of very strong hands. So I like how I played it, and we're almost up to a cool Milski. 9-6 of clubs here, next orbit. Isn't it nice? I just get to play my button every hand. Wow, that is so OP. No wonder I have 900,000 chips. In actuality, we just fast forwarded through about an orbit or so, and it's on us. You can see I'm antsy back then, and I'm antsy right now. What you doing, J May, all day? Justin Turner over there taking his sweet ass time. And I think 9-6 suited qualifies as a raise, barely, but I think it gets in there. I don't think I'd raise 9-5 suited unless I had a very good reason to, but 9-6 gets in there. And hand number 3 against our friend Whale, who wasn't really our friend until we started taking money off him, and now we're friends. That's just how that works. What you gonna do? He says I'm all in. I say I can't contest, and he wins it. Okay, not as good for us that time. If you're trying to keep track of how much time passes between hands, you can always use the blind timer in the top left of the table, and you can see this is the hand immediately after because the blind timer didn't really go anywhere. Pocket jacks here in the cutoff. Pretty nice hand, facing a bunch of 20 big blind-ish stacks. And this guy more or less moves all in, and there's only one button for us to press here, which is raise all in, or, basically all in. No choice, right? I'm not going to call. What does call even mean? They all have got 20 big blinds. So this hand, I think a 8-year-old would have played the same way as me. Probably. You never know. But yes, we are all in and up against the basketball, who has left some chips behind, maybe trying to stall through a pay jump, leaving himself with some chips to just, survive a little longer if he needs to. But he's got deuces, and it'll be deuces to him. Get out of here, bro. Thanks for playing. And we are up over a Milski in the tournament. Just like that, we are very much peaking in the tourney. We're in second place with 84 players left. Whoa. Chip lead is 1.36 million, but we're on his tail with over $1 million ourselves. First place is $168,000. That'll be pretty cool. And yeah, you can see we're off. Final 9 get over 5 figures. And yes, the hunt continues. So this was the break. I pause this at every break. I pull up the lobby so we can kind of sync back up to reality, which is an important thing to do. Ace-7 suited here in the cutoff, facing a raise from middle position. This hand, I think, is a flexor, as in this hand, I think, could do one of two things, which is call or raise. If you're going to raise, I think you got to make it something like 100,000, something like that. Seems cool to me. Or call. I think both are okay. I don't mind either. I kind of lean a little bit more towards making it 100K. 112, I think, is a little too much, but, hey, if you want to, I guess. Yeah, I think this is a little too big. I think I could have got away with making it just 96,000, one click less on the machine. But yeah, it's fine. It's okay. It's just a little inefficient, I think, in terms of, because I'm not calling a shove. So I'm just losing an extra 20K if he shoves here. So these are the little things, right? Somebody makes it 112 and folds versus somebody else who's a little better who makes it 108 and folds. That's 4,000 chips that guy saved. That's a quarter of a big blind. Those edges add up a lot over the course of your life. And Whale spiked us on us here. So he says, I'm all in. We say, whoopsie, I should have saved 18,000 chips and torched for our own educational pleasure. It's my turn here with deuces, and I think we can get away with a raise. barely. But I think we can sneak it in here. I would make it about 35,000 given the big stack in the big blind. 36,000 is acceptable. Sometimes I think if you make it exactly like, it's going to come to him, he'll say 20,000 more. He's like, all right, 20,000 more. 35, though, you already have 60 now. It's like, oh my God, what is that math? It's so hard to figure out. What am I, a freaking rocket scientist, dude? So sometimes I like to not make it exactly, the same unit as the big blind, where it's just one number different. In any case, ace, king, 5 here. I think we must bet this flop. No question about it in my mind. We have a backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, and this is just a much better flop for us than for our opponent because we're the ones that have aces, ace, king, 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 ace, queen. All those big cards are much more likely that we're going to have those than our opponent. 40,000 here looks good to me. No reason to raise much more than that, given Jin Yang in the big blind. Gambling with some of his startup money, perhaps. And pretty good flop for us. I think I must bet this flop as well. Certainly one that I could consider checking sometimes, but I feel like this is just one we should bet. I like 30,000, 30 G's, baby. And if he shoves, I wouldn't be thrilled about it, and I guess I would fold because he's like, what does he have? King Jack? Maybe. King Jack suited might shove pre, though. So he has King Jack offsuit. I have a king also, kind of hard to do. So like Jack 9 is like the only hand that really makes sense that I'm ahead of, that I'm folding against. Like, what are his bluffs, really? I just don't think there are very many. When he calls the flop, though, now we have an interesting spot. I'm going to hit pause because I'm not really sure what we should do here. So this is definitely interesting. He could definitely check call flop with some 10x, queen x, 5x, some other sorts of things like 9-8 perhaps, king 9 perhaps. Some backdoor flush draws and some straight draws, right? Like, what does he do with 6-7 of clubs here on the flop? Does he just check fold? Probably 6-7 of clubs. But what is it? What if he has like Jack 8 of clubs? Like, that's probably check calling once here, and we have the best hand against that. So if I bet twice, what are the kinds of hands that he calls the flop that he now folds on the turn that we're that we're losing to? What are the hands that are better than us that will now fold? And what are the hands that are worse than us that will now call? There's not a lot of those, I don't think. So I kind of think check, but I'm certainly open to the idea of betting here because you do put a lot of pressure on 5x. If he has somehow like a 7x, which I guess would mean like 7-9 of spades or something like that. I mean, that would be very ambitious to call a flop bet with 7-9 of spades. So there's probably not too many of those. Also, we have the ace of spades, which doesn't make a huge difference here, but he can't have like ace 7 of spades, which would make some amount of sense. So yeah, generally I think check, but let's see what I do. I have counted out a bet, 100,000. What to do? Okay, I like check. I think check is extremely fine in this situation. I don't mind betting turn, of course. He does have some hands that will fold. Jack 8 of spades. But again, like what? So what? I'm beating that hand already. I do deny myself getting bluffed on the river by that hand, which could definitely happen right now because I think we're just folding to a bet. Certainly that size bet we just fold. So turn is definitely a debate. I would love to know if you guys think this should be a bet, but I just don't think I think we need to have a heart in our hand, perhaps. It would be enough of a difference because it's just one less hand that would make, knowing if we have the ace or king of hearts makes it harder for him to have a turn backdoor flush draw, which means he has more hands that fold. But it's definitely an interesting situation. If the river is a board pair, I'm not sure I fold. I might still call. Maybe, I don't know if I call a shove, but interesting spot. Poker is a beautiful game, man. I've been playing poker for, I don't know, it feels like 87 years, and I'm still learning things every day. 2 cards, still very hard to grasp. It's amazing. 40,000 here, under the gun with pocket eights. Looks good to me. And we are qualified to call the re-raise here if Oreo comes in. It was that or 0. If he re-raises us to 120, 140K, I think our hand is good enough for us to call, but I wouldn't be thrilled about it. I mean, I would be fine with it. So, okay, 40,000 in a call, and the big blind folds. This is an interesting spot between checking and betting. I think if we check, this hand becomes very difficult for us generally because what we're going to do, we're going to check call and then hope we win this hand somehow. So I actually don't mind betting on the flop. This is definitely a better flop for us than for him, not by a lot, but I think we are favored here, generally speaking. Interesting also to pick 40,000 here. I think we have 3 choices. Check flop, 40,000, 80,000. I think those are our 3 options here, and I'm not really sure which of those is best. My gut tells me check is not the best choice, but it might be. It might be. and it could even be the bigger sizing too, although I doubt it. I think it's 40 or check generally. So here on the turn, having bet the flop, now we have another interesting decision, which is, do I fire another bet? And maybe he folds a hand like queen 10 or pocket nines. I mean, these are very optimistic things, but also he might fold hands like ace jack, ace 10, which I'm beating, but have some difficulty check calling twice against. Not that he's going to bluff twice, but if he did, I would have a hard time calling. If he has jack 10, he probably still calls anyway. I do think on the flop, he calls us with all of his gut shots call. If he has 10-9, he still calls the flop. And then now he would bluff if I checked, and then we would have to check and face a bet on the river against that kind of hand. So I remember thinking live that if I check, we're going to check call, and then on the river, I'm going to check every river, and then he'll put us in a tough spot, sometimes especially with his stack advantage over us. So I kind of thought that maybe this would be a better board to just bet twice, because I think he doesn't have king, king, or queen, queen too much, although he could have flatted those pre-flop. I don't think he has king, king, queen, queen too much. He could have 4-4. He could have king, queen. But I kind of felt like he wasn't super strong here. He doesn't have ace, king. He doesn't have ace, ace. I can still have all of those. But it's a weird spot though, right? Because we're turning a pair into a bluff by betting, which is just not the most efficient of hands to pick to bluff with, right? Because I could just win by the merit of the value of my cards. I don't need to leverage some chips to get him to fold if eights are just the best hand. So interesting spot, and let's see what I decided to do. I feel like I remember betting, and I remember not being sure, and I still am not really sure. Looks like I'm picking about half pot, which I think is fine if I'm going to bet here. It's definitely a little dicey, right? This is another spot where I'd love to hear some comments and think about what you guys would do here. You're at the World Series of Poker, playing online. You're in your underwear. It's like 1 a.m. You're a little high, but that's okay. You're not high enough not to know what's going on. And then here you are on the turn, pocket eights. You bet flop. He calls. He's a chip leader. Now what do? I don't really know. I'm not really sure now. I wasn't really sure then, and maybe you'll be sure in the YouTube comments. Who knows? So I bet 100,000 here. Action on our opponent who's in the tank. Not the most comfortable spot for us here. Obviously, if he raises, we just fold. He tanks and folds. I do think there is a chance he folds a queen here to us sometimes. I mean, that's a little bit optimistic, maybe fan fiction, but I do think there is a chance that he might have folded. What did he do with queen 9 suited? Maybe he calls pre, and maybe he folds the turn. Like, what do I have? I have ace jack, maybe ace 10, jack 10. Maybe that's too optimistic, but in my mind, I thought it was possible. King, queen here in the small blind. This is an interesting spot as well. We have about 35 big blinds, approximately, facing a raise from the cutoff here. I think call is probably best, but I would not be shocked if we make it 200,000 in this situation also and then fold to a shove. I think both of those are okay. I think shoving is a little crazy. We have too many chips to shove generally, I think, but I think 200,000 is the play in my opinion. Let's see. Call also fine. Less, more. What will we do? Less, more. What will we do in the tank? This is definitely a little awkward situation, right? Like, okay. Oh, yeah. 190,000. Okay, yeah, I agree. And this, I like the size, to be honest. I think this is actually a little small. The last time I didn't like my sizing. It was a little too big. I think that's just a little... against the guy who has a lot of chips, I think we should probably just make it a straight 200,000 there. But like, why give him a 10,000 discount? I don't really see a reason. So ace jack offsuit here against under the gun shove. This is a interesting spot. Also kind of dicey, right? With ace jack in the cutoff. I probably have the best hand against Darren's rabbi. But the button behind us has a ton of chips and over 30 big blinds. If the button had 300K, this would be a very easy shove, and we just hope we have the best hand. With the button having so many chips, I'm less confident about what we should do in this situation. So, I don't know. I don't mind shoving. I think shoving is okay, but boy, we feel really bad when the button wakes up with ace queen or something. Hello, turned ace ball. Okay, and just like that, another one bites the dust. That's a close spot, but I think shove is okay. Ace 10 fold, ace queen, shove. Ace jack is like in between somewhere. So I decided to shove there, and we picked that one up. Nice. Back to being a table chip lead, I think. Nope, just barely not against Mick Meister over in the top right. King Jack, certainly good enough for us to raise, and I'm going to make it a little extra here. Again, I make it 30,000 more for the big blind. Who must be a good player because I've given him a shark tag since the last time that we saw the table, so it must be somebody good. So open to 54,000, cutoff re-raises us, and what shall we do here? This is an interesting situation. In my youth, I would look at this spot and say, call a lot. But now at this point, I'm less confident. I'm not really so sure. I think this is probably a call still, but King 10 fold, maybe something like that. I think King Jack is probably just good enough against a guy who I don't know. But no, I do fold. Okay, discipline. That's it. You can't lose what you don't put in the pot, people. That's just science. 54,000 here again with pocket nines. I'm going to make it the same size I made it with the last hand. If your stack size doesn't change too much and the blinds don't change as far as being very different stack sizes, I think keeping your raise size consistent makes sense, because otherwise maybe you'll give away information, make people think you have one thing over another. You might just cause some people to make some decisions against you that they might not if you just were static with your bet sizing. So here I raise, get called. He shoves behind us on the button, and I can't imagine we don't shove here. I have to put in 287,000 to win 500K. Gone Bananas could definitely be trapping us. This is one of those things where, like, I wish I knew this player, because the better the player is, the more concerned I would be that he was trapping me with a big hand here by calling. But that being said, we're getting almost 2-1 with pocket nines. Wally World could easily find a shove here with a hand like sixes. If you could imagine being in his spot and it goes raise, call, and you have pocket sevens, I don't think you're doing anything other than shoving. And even maybe a hand like ace eight suited, and not to count all the hands we're flipping against, which is fine given that I'm putting in 300 to win 500. I'll take a 50-50 proposition given that I'm almost getting like 1.6 to 1 or something. So that all being said, I think we shove and pray that Gone Bananas doesn't have anything too crazy. I don't really think we can call. I mean, calling is okay. It's basically the same thing, but why? I think it's shove or fold, and fold to me seems kind of tight. And by kind of, I mean like very tight. Whoa! Whoa! Holy shit. Oh my God. I don't even remember this happened. I thought for sure I won. Well, if I shove, sevens fold anyway, and then here we are. Wow, what a nitty fold that was. Oh my God. Well, okay, interesting. I mean, I guess I just was worried about Gone Bananas, like that he would call with some big hands there, and yeah, well, he would not have called sevens. If I shove, he folds, then we're flipping against ace jack for 500,000, which would have been nice to win. Perhaps a small mistake there on my part. Maybe I undervalued those nines a little bit. I don't know. That might be one worth doing some heavy math in the tank, because it really comes down to what the chance is of that second guy having a good hand. Like, is he getting way out of line, calling way too many hands? The more he's calling, the more we should be shoving. The less he's calling, the more we should be a little bit more worried, but maybe the price is just too good. So yeah, I'll pause for a second. There's two variables. It's what's the button shoving with, and what's the under the gun +1 player calling us with. And the tighter both of those players are, the worse pocket nines becomes, right? So I'm not sure. It's close. I picked the conservative route, which is not my usual selection in that spot, but I think it's okay, right? If we have pocket eights, I think obviously every rank lesser, I'm more and more fine with folding. And in that spot, I think it's, I think it's a little too tight, but not insanely so. Ace 6 offsuit here. We're going to raise this one. If the button shoves, we just have to fold. No real choice. I don't have a 10 seconds faster. I have a 10 seconds back. It doesn't really help us too much in these situations to move it along. Pretty good flop for us here. I would think I would like to bet more than like to check. I think 48,000 makes sense to me. I mean, checking is okay in this spot. I'm sure you're not losing much by checking, but I think I prefer betting. Just like this is just going to be a better flop for us than for him. I do pick 40,000, which seems fine. And now what you going to do? I'm not expecting him to fold any pair. I'm not expecting him to fold if he has any straight draw whatsoever. But I think this hand is probably just better off for us to play as a flop bet rather than a flop check and then turn a little bit dicey. This hand is not really going to make anything super strong. And wow, just like that, another hour in the bag. So now we're down to the final 48 contestants. We are in 5th place, moving along at hyper turbo speed in this recap. And yeah, still $168,000 for first. We're in 5th place. There's now 9 players over $1 million chips. We're in the middle of all of those. And blinds are getting up there. If you're enjoying this video, please let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content, if you want to get notified every time I put up a new video. And yeah, you can let me know on Twitter at Jason Somerville. I haven't really been very active on social media. I've really kind of just been disconnected from Earth mostly the last month or two. But when I post this video, I'll resurface for at least a day. So please feel free to let me know what you think. If there's also any, there have been already several interesting hands that I would be happy to kind of hear some thoughts on. Ace, Jack 5, we're the pre-flop raiser. I like checking in this flop. We're very likely ahead of the big blind. The big blind has so many different hands in this situation. I think it's going to be very hard for us to go bet flop, bet turn, bet river. So we're probably only going to get to bet once or twice with this hand. So I think checking the flop to let him maybe make another pair on the turn, give him something to call with, and then bet, and then decide on the river if I want to value bet or not. This is a close decision, right? Because he does have some Jack X, but he also has some Ace X, and I'm not even sure if Jack 7 would call on the river, right? If I bet 150 or 100,000 on the river, does Jack 7 even call? Like, I'm not really sure. So I don't mind my check on the river, but it is close. We're now at the point in the tournament where I have to use the calculator to see how many big blinds we have. So we have 1.3 million and 28,000 is the big blind. So we have 46 big blinds here. I don't know what it is about WSOP, but there are so many weird levels where I'm just like, I have no clue how many big blinds I have right now. I used to make fun of Nano Noko, who used to do that even when he had like even number. It was like 10,000, 20,000, and he had like 500,000. He'd be like, break out the calculator. I'm like, dude, you're a 24 tabling wizard. You can't figure out how many big blinds you have. But on WSOP, I totally understand because it just feels like it's, I don't know. There's so many weird levels. It's like, anyway. Short stack tanking, whether or not Habibi wants to call all in for his or her tournament life or not. And we shall see. Everybody's taking their sweet time. Why not? It's summertime. WSOP online. Just chilling, relaxing. Okay, try to make that pay jump. Whatever. We don't got nothing but time. Okay, he folds. If we're going to play more hands against that player, I'll accelerate it in the future, but we're moving along quickly here. Habibi still alive in the big blind. King 10 of diamonds for us, pretty good hand. Certainly one I'm going to contest with. And entering this pot for a minimum raise makes a lot of sense. Our opponent has ace king somehow. We outflop him or her with top 2 pair, and then Habibi turns the flush, and we say okay. Best hand wins. Ultimately, we can't do much about that. On to the next hand. Somehow I think I still made some chips there, or got some chips back, I guess, from from my pre-flop raise. Maybe it was refunded to me. Pocket fours. We're gonna raise this one up, but getting relatively close, right? Like I think if I had deuces, I guess I raised in a spot earlier, but slightly different. If I was like one spot to the right with threes or something, we could definitely consider folding. But good enough for us to go here. Okay, let's go, buddy. Let's go, buddy. We got things to do, people. I mean, I don't blame her. Him or her has 3 big blinds. I don't know why I feel like it's a girl. The only person I've ever heard called Habibi in my entire life. Well, I guess they called each other that, but Jason Mercier and Natasha would call each other Habibi all the time, and I'd be like, okay. But somehow I took it as like, I think it's a Lebanese, like a kind thing you call somebody. I don't know. But I'm not really sure. Maybe that's just what they did. That's my whole exposure to the name. King 9-3 here. Again, a spot where I don't mind checking, I guess. But I think our life is a lot simpler if we just bet the flop. And then obviously I can't do this every single time. And we don't want to be completely betting every single time that it checks to us, but I think in that spot it's okay. 7-6 offsuit now in the small blind. And people are still taking some time. That's okay. 7-6 offsuit. I think we must just limp here. I don't really see much merit in raising, although I don't mind it, I guess. I think this hand particularly wants to just call. And if our opponent raises, I think I would also probably call. I think our hand is probably good enough. I'd make bottom pair here, and this is a hand that can go either way now. I think we could either bet the minimum amount, 28,000, or check. I think both of those options are okay. Betting has some merit in the fact that we are protecting ourselves against 9, 10, jack, queen, ace, but he also doesn't have too many of those high cards generally because he checked in the big blind as the big stack. So I don't mind playing check call also, and maybe giving him a chance to bluff the flop. 9 is a good card in that it gives us a straight draw, bad card in that it does make some higher pairs than us, and now we just hit the perfect card to make a straight as well. I decided to check this river instead of betting because I just feel like he didn't have very much on the flop. If I bet the river, what is he going to call me with? He has to have like a 10 or maybe a 9 that checked the turn. So he did have an ace that didn't raise pre-flop, which is fine, but I was still sort of a little surprised to see that. And we win that pot on the river. If I bet the river, I'm not even sure ace-6 calls us there. So facing the cutoff raise from the big stack, we're also a big stack. And I decide to raise here. I think this is a completely fine play. This is another one of those hands that can probably do a little bit of everything. It does look a little fishy, maybe, because if I had a really, really good hand, I might just call to see if I can get who am I to make a big mistake in the big blind, and try to squeeze both of us. If I call, he shoves, maybe the cutoff makes a big mistake and puts in a ton of chips. But that being said, I think this is fine to mix in here sometimes. And now we wait for who am I to make a decision. And by wait, I'm going to fast forward slightly if I can without ruining everything. Could you imagine I just fast forward through the whole video and it's all spoiled? Everyone's like, you ruined it. You couldn't be patient for 2 seconds. All right, I've done nothing. I've accelerated this in no shape. Oh, I moved it forward 10 seconds, and he's still tanking. Oh, 6 more seconds. Wow, I'm so glad I did this. We're saving. I just saved you guys 16 seconds of your lives. Okay, he folds. Back to the cutoff now. If he shoves, we just fold. I can't do anything about that. If he calls, we're in position. We go to battle. And if he raises anything, I guess we just fold. All in all, pretty good result. 1.5 milski. Queen jack offsuit here. Pretty good hand in the grand scheme of things. We're going to raise it up. And we have 2 big stacks and then 1 tiny stack. So I immediately suspect that we're going to get ourselves into some trouble because, it looks like a spot where everybody's got some chips to play with and get out of line with. So I'm not surprised now, nor was I then, to see one of these big stacks re-raises. And I'm already sure, I'm committed in my brain to calling in this situation. Like it's just too likely that Gone Bananas is living up to his name and just doing something he shouldn't be doing. Or maybe just putting on, maybe just picking the aggressive route with hands that are reasonable to do it with that have the flex option, right? Because a hand like 7-8 suited here could just call, but I think given the dynamic in the situation, I think it's pretty likely that this player will pick hands that maybe would be calls to be raises instead. So I feel like we must call here at pre-flop. This is obviously not an amazing hand, but we are getting an amazing price, 128 to win 320. So I think we start with a call and go from there. Exactly what I was hoping for. This was the flop of my dreams. When you have gruel, green, red, jack, queen, that's what you want. 3 little baby diamonds. So now we just fold. Can't do anything about that. I say, nice hand. You got me. Okay, we made it to another break. I think. I actually may have been showing these not at the break. It does say next break in 1 minute. Wow, okay. So now there are 30 players left. We are in 8th place. There still aren't that many players over 1 million chips, but we do have the chip leader on our left. At least we did as of the last thing. You can see D-Negs is actually still in the tournament. That's right, Daniel Negreanu. You might have heard of that guy. So he's still in at this point in the tournament, and we haven't came across him yet, but maybe we shall in the future. Pocket jacks here in the cutoff. Pretty good hand. A lot of deep stacks. You may be wondering, Jay Carver, how many big blinds do you have? Well, don't worry. I have a calculator, and it tells us that we have 35.9 big blinds. Isn't that lovely? Facing a raise here from middle position with pocket jacks. I would suspect this is a mix as far as our strategy goes between calling and making it like 200,000. Making it 200,000 does put us in the spot where if he shoves, we must call. So that's okay, but I'm just once I pick this button, there's no folding pre-flop at least. So I decided to raise, which I think is okay. And what will he do? McMeister. What will you do? I don't know. We'll find out. If he shoves, we must call. If he calls, we see a flop, and that's it. If he folds, we just win the money, or win the money. Ace-Jack offsuit now in the small blind. A lot of chips here at this table. You can see only one guy under $1 million. Everybody else over $1 million. Ace-Jack offsuit in the small blind. Not the hand you always want to see. It's a dicey spot, right? This is going to be a little tricky potentially. So I think we have two options here. One is call and one is making it about 320,000 approximately. Or actually, I guess option 4 or 3, whatever I was saying, is shove. Wow, okay. I did it even before I could think about it being an option. That is interesting to me. Wow. I wonder why I thought that was the right play. So we have how many big blinds? I don't know. Probably the same amount just about as the last time we looked. Like 30-something big blinds. We have 1.3 million divided by 34. We have 38 big blinds. Button opens for like more than the button should be opening to, probably slightly. Maybe like it should be opening to 70,000 instead. Makes this 82. And then we shove in the small blind. I think it's okay. It's a tough hand to play. You make it 300,000, you get shoved on, we fold. That's not really great. We call. Call is okay too, I guess. But yeah, interesting spot. Bold choice. Let's see how this goes. I think that's okay. Seems fine. Not something that I'm thrilled about, but under 40 big blinds in the small blind facing the button raise. I think we can find some shoves with some different hands to make that, reasonable. So this guy is all in, and hey, look over there with the, is it a goat or is it a donkey? Hard to tell. Dean Eggs, Daniel Negreanu hanging out. So this under the gun player opted all in. A small blind completes. Flop went check, check. Turn, we turn to 10. We must bet, I think, to get some value and protection. And we are going to take another scalp and bust out Negator 13. Pocket nines here. Blinds are up 20 and 40,000. It might have been up last hand, actually. Let's see what happens. This is definitely a better table than the one we were just at. A lot more short stacks, which is generally better when we are a medium stack, because now we become more of a big stack ourselves. Second place at this table where we were kind of in the middle at the other one. And we have a very easy 80,000 in my opinion here. No reason to make it more. Why am I making it more? Stop it. All right. We figured it out. It's like, what am I making it more for? Okay, yeah, because both players in the blinds being pretty short stacked, I don't really see much reason to make it more than that. Like making it, what's the difference in making it 80 and 90,000? Whose decision is being modified, really? Maybe the big blind will be a little bit tighter against 90,000 than 80,000, but not really sure about that. This is an interesting spot. So our opponent makes a relatively small re-raise, making it 212,000. I think we can arguably press two buttons, all in and call. And both seem okay to me. I suspect that, I paused the video for a moment. I suspect that this situation induces a lot of funny business, right? This is a late position open, steal position re-raises. I just suspect that the cutoff could be messing around here. And calling with pocket nines is certainly fine, but does create some dicey situations post flop. It's very hard to flop an overpair with pocket nines. And then, there's some amount of just trickiness that could come out of all of this, where it's very possible I have the best hand pre-flop and there is 400,000 in the pot already. So I say all that to make a case for shoving, which I'm almost positive I do here. As you can see, I already mashed the button and then just thinking through my choices, but I think that's the one that makes the most sense. So I think he folds a lot when we shove here, but we sometimes get called by aces and feel like a moron. Into the tank our opponent goes. Obviously, great news not to get snap called here, but our opponent could have pocket tens or pocket jacks. Wow, calls with ace, queen, offsuit. We are all in for a 3 million chip pot. Can we hold and dodge the ace and the queen? Oh, yeah, we can. We got 3 million chips. Oh, 3 million chips. Okay. Whoa. I don't really love that guy's call, but you know what? I think it's okay. If he thinks that I think that he thinks that I think that everybody is losing their minds, getting a little bit loosey-goosey, then it's got to be okay, right? He thinks that we're just stealing. I think he's stealing. We all think each other is stealing. So if that's true, then maybe it's okay. But for that to be great, I really need to be shoving like king, queen, like ace, jack, and I am not as sure about that. It's close, though. I definitely get what he's thinking there, but I think maybe we fold ace-queen offsuit and call ace-queen suited. Like, that was a huge pot, and I could definitely have ace-king or aces-kings. Maybe aces, I pick something else. Maybe I just call aces, but I could have kings or queens or ace-king for sure, not to mention also, of course, like jacks, tens, nines, obviously. Like, I don't think he's going to be thrilled. But again, the more he thinks that I'm getting out of line, like, if I could have a hand like ace-5, ace-4 suited, now he's a big favorite against those hands. And the more of those that I have, the more I like his play. But now we're in an amazing position, right? We're literally Godzilla hulking over the city because nobody can stop us. I've got 3 million chips there. Everybody else combined has I can't really add that much, but it feels like nothing. So yeah, we're in a good situation here. Pocket nines facing any action. I'm probably just going to be all in. I can't really see what would happen that would cause me not to go all in. Maybe if button limps, I would pick something else besides all in. Maybe then I would just pick 200,000 or something. But yeah, feels like a pretty clear all in to me. Probably down to the final 3 tables at this point. Final 24, because this is an 8-handed event. Yep, all in. No choice on our part. Pretty easy. Oh, yeah, 3 of those 1 million watermelons in the middle there. Okay, another one bites the dust. We pick up the chips. 25, 50,000 now. Ace-jack offsuit. Under the gun +1. I think this is a mandatory raise. Negreanu is the only person that makes me not just shove this hand to begin with. If D-Negs wasn't here, I would just be all in. Right, because no one has a stack that would get me to do anything else. I don't mind min raising because people might make some mistakes versus shoving. But if no D-negs here, we might just be open shoving all the hands we play with. Button opts to go all in, which, we're still a favorite against the 5 big blind reshove, but I'm not thrilled about it with ace jack offsuit because he could have found something better. But in any case, we're going to get 3-1. Even if big blind shoves, I don't think we're supposed to fold this. Nice flop for us. We are a favorite here. Can we find an ace or a jack or a blue card? There it is. Wow. Did you have any doubt? I mean, I had a little doubt, but not really. Yeah. That dude was a good player. I don't know his name or anything about him, but I see him around a bunch, so not sad to see him go. There is the former chip leader, Gone Bananas, joining our table. 25, 50,000. The ecstasy of gold. We can feel it. It's so close. It's like 20-something players away. You only get a few chances in poker to make deep runs in WSOP events. You got to make the most of them, right? That's why you do all the practicing and all the training, all the studying, all the reviews. It's just to make these situations for you to play better, make better decisions, lose less chips, win more chips when you have a good hand. And yeah, here we are. Ace-2 softsuit. I wouldn't mind a bluff raise, but I think we just call. I don't really think there's any reason to do too much else. Ace-8-7. We start with a little check ski. This is a pretty good flop for us, right? Because our opponent won't perceive us to have too many aces in the big blind here, and we shouldn't, right? We should have re-raised with our best aces at least, but I could have 7-8 or, ace 7 offsuit, ace 8 offsuit. 5 of clubs, dicey turn card, not a great one. And it should be a card that should scare him a little bit, because I do have a lot of cards that are connected to this zone. Right, I have 6-5, I might have 6-4 of spades, I might have 6-9 suited that calls the flop. I definitely have some hands that have clubs in them, but I still think I have to call here with my exact hand, but I'm honestly not sure about that. I know for a fact I call this turn card, but in retrospect, I think you might be able to find a fold here, because I have a lot of things that really connect well on this turn, and so do I need to call this hand also, especially given the fact that he should check here a lot? So I don't mind my call on the turn, but I think perhaps a little too thin. I might need a club in my hand to call ace deuce here. And so now we have an easy fold. Indeed, we fold. Okay. To 83 suited in the big blind. D-negs makes it flat hundo. And my intention is to call if it folds around to us. I'm not thrilled about this three-handed situation, but I still think we probably can find a call. This is one of those spots where we're kind of playing the lottery, right? I'm getting 6-1. I'm not going to win this hand that often, but I probably win it enough to show a small profit with this exact hand. But if you told me that I should fold because this is just like too bad, I wouldn't be shocked. Definitely can't fold 8-4 in my opinion, but 8 deuce and 8-3 might just be bad enough to let it go. This is also one of those spots where if D-negs had made it 115k instead of 100k, that also might just be enough to just push it over the edge. But I call pretty quick, which seems fine given this exact scenario. So flop an open ender and a backdoor flush draw, which is not bad for the mighty 3-8 suited. Start the check over to D-negs, who also checks. And this guy might have some of this, right? This is one of those boards where if I had to rate which of the three of us hit this board the hardest, it would be probably the big blind, and then second Gone Bananas, and third D-negs, right? D-negs shouldn't really have a lot of this as pre-flop raiser with his stack size. Of course, he could have sets and overpairs sometimes. And maybe I should just fold the flop, to be honest with you. This might be a little dicey to call with D-negs behind us, because he could have some like ace, queen of spades that will shove. He could have some sets. He could have some overpairs like pocket tens that might check and then shove when it comes back to him. And nice turn card here. We turn the flush draw to go with our open ender. And now we have to kind of see what our opponent is going to do. Ultimately, I do have 8 high, though, which is not great. And there's also something to be said about the fact that he could have a hand like Jack 10 of clubs, which would have me in quite bad shape, right? Like, not that I think he has that often, but even though our hand looks pretty good, I think this is just a fold. And I do remember we do press the fold button here. I just don't think that we have enough equity against. He has a lot of good hands, right? He could have some sets. If he had a set, I think his bet sizing makes a lot of sense because he's trying to get protection against all the draws. Even if he just has a hand like king, queen that spiked to king, like I'm not in great shape. And sometimes I'm in really bad shape when he has a better flush draw also. So the king 9 offsuit on the button, facing 2 short stacks, 15 big blinds. I'd like to see myself play this hand. Whether I do it for a limp or min raise or a shove, I think are all pretty close. Definitely not a fold. So the question is call, min raise, or shove. And I think there are merits for all 3 of those. Ace 5 suited now. So yeah, that 3-8 of clubs hand might just be a fold on the flop in retrospect. Like I remember calling pretty quickly and thinking it was fine because I had the backdoor flush draw also, but we let ourselves get really squeezed by Negreanu there, and we still end up turning like an amazing turn card, and we still don't get to see a river. So if that's true, maybe the situation isn't as good as perhaps seems at first. Ace 5 of diamonds takes down the blinds and annies. 8-4 of spades now in the small blind. If this dude folds, I think we have 2 choices, which is one limp and the other one is shove. I think shove is just a little too many chips. He has almost a million chips, 15, 16, 17 big blinds. So I think call makes a lot of sense. And if he makes it 180,000, 200,000, I think I would have just called. Okay, this hand. So I think I bet on the flop here, but I really don't like that. I think at the time I felt like, oh, I have 8 high. I should bluff, and maybe he'll fold 9 high or jack high or queen high. But in retrospect, I really think I should have checked this flop because this is a hand that can check call, but doesn't really want to play a huge pot, because if he plays a huge pot against us, we're almost never a favorite. Almost never, ever, 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 ever are we a favorite. Because what can he have, right? He has like in better flush draws, better straight draws. He has higher pairs. So yeah, I think this may be the worst hand that I played this entire tournament, because I think I find the shove button here, and I just don't think he's folding enough in this spot. I would really prefer myself to call if I can not shove. Okay, that would be nice, but I don't think I do. Do I? Do I call? I think I shove. I think I should call, but do I? The mouse is so hilarious. No, I do shove, and I'm really not happy about this. I remember this one. This was just a little too, you're just like winning every pot. You're feeling good. You're flying high. And then you're like, yeah, sure, I can take my fighter jet that can do anything and fly it underneath this little bridge. I can make it, of course. And then actually turns out you can't, and just get your wings clipped. So I lost that pot down to 6th place. I was in 3rd place before then. Not happy with how I played that hand. I really should have just checked and called, or if I bet, maybe just call the raise. So I'm really not happy about that. Right now, guaranteed 17th place for $5,800, which is nice. 17 players remain, though. We're out there looking for that gold bracelet. We're looking for a little sister for the one that I've got from, at this point, 9 years ago. Wouldn't it be nice to add a second bracelet in this event right here? And, well, then, I should say. I was going to say now, but right here and then would be nice. Queen 4 is suited. Still have plenty of chips. This is a different table than the one we were just at. D-Neg's at the, I think D-Neg's is at the other table at this point. So there's 2 tables left because we're 8-handed. So we must be down to the final 2 tables of WSOP event. Whoa. Defend Queen 4 and then just check fold. We can't do anything about that. So yeah, that 8-4 suited hand is just a little gross. Okay, yes, final 2 tables. D-Negs did bust out, unfortunately, in 18th place. So no Negreanu. We're currently guaranteed $5,800, looking for that next pay jump to $7,300. And we're pretty much in the middle of the pack, 6 of 16, right? But you can see there's some very short stacks, as Johnny G Guy has 150K, and Gone Bananas now has so many chips, 5.4 million. Yikes. Average is 1.7, so we basically have average stack. I must have, we were actually on, that was the break, I guess, or something. So, okay, blinds will be up next hand. We're getting kind of short stacked here. Somewhat short stacked. Pocket 8s, 30 big blinds here. If K-Cook shoves, I think we would have to shove. I wouldn't be thrilled about it, but I think we would have to, just by the merits of the strength of our hand. K-Cook could shove a hand like 4s or Ace-5 suited, something like that. Wow, a limp. Not what I thought was in the playbook. So given that our opponent did something that I think he should probably never be doing, I think we should just make a small raise. I would usually make it, I usually make it like 135K. With a limp, I think to make it 185K or something, like 190K in that ballpark seems fine to me. Right? That's how I look at it. I'd usually make it something around 130K. Now there's a limp. I just add the limp to what I would have made it. So I think this is maybe a tiny bit on the small side, but I don't really need to make it much more than that because I just don't think it accomplishes that much. Like, whose decision really changes if it's 195 versus 180? It just maybe gets the big blind to fold a few more hands. But the big blind can't really call here that much because the limper could be trapping and then shove and then puts him in a very tough spot. So I think 180 is acceptable. And he quickly calls. This is a dream flop for pocket 8s. I don't know what this player is doing. I don't think any hand should limp and then call a 3x when you have 10 big blinds. I just don't think, given that he's in middle position, that is. So yeah, I decided to shove here on this flop. And I think I only really think I have 2 buttons to press, which is all in or check. I could arguably bet 100,000 or something to get him to make a mistake off of that. I didn't really consider that at the time, but maybe a small bet is actually also viable. In any case, we shoved, which is certainly fine, and he folded. Pocket 6 is now going to be at it again here. If you guys been enjoying this, I'd love to hear in the comments below, also on social media or on Discord. Come say hi to me. Let me know what you thought. Your love is what powers me into doing these videos. So I appreciate everybody who's made it almost an hour into this session. We're going about as fast as we can review, however many hours this tournament lasted for. So hopefully you guys are having a good time. Pocket sixes here. We have raised it up. And if the small blind shoves, I think I would fold this hand exactly. You know, it's a lot of chips for me to call with sixes, but it would be close because I'd probably call sevens. Ace four suited, middle position. I think this is just a pretty simple raise. We're certainly calling either of the short stacks and folding to any of the million plus stacks, I think. If ba raises to a not all-in amount, I think it would be worth considering calling, but probably a shove or fold situation. I don't really think if he makes it $500,000 that we're going to be like, call, let's see a flop. I think we probably just say, are you bluffing me? If you're bluffing me, I'm all in. If you're not bluffing me, I just fold. In reality, everybody just folded. Blinds will be up next hand. For now, though, Queen 10 offsuit, good enough for us in the big blind. We're looking to dance here. Two very short stacked, 115 big blind stacks, and then two guys that have heaps. Queen 10 good enough to call. I don't think there's any merit to do anything other than call. I think this is 100% call. Obviously, if K Kook or Into the River raises, we just fold this hand and happily move on. You can see it got a little bit slower here, as is very common. Oh, wow. So no matter what hand this guy has, he's making a mistake here. Because if he shoves, I'll just fold my big blind. And because I can't call with the potential of raising us. Right, so if he shoves for 115K more, you actually get me to fold my big blind. You probably get the small blind to fold also. And yeah, your chance of beating one person is higher than your chance of beating two people. So yeah, I don't really love that decision. We fold. Somehow he has Queen 9, which is crazy. We were in second place there. Yeah, so I don't think Queen 9 should even put a chip in the pot pre-flop. And if you are, just shove. And, you know, because he let me, if he shoves, I fold Queen 10, which is amazing for him when he has Queen 9. Instead, he calls, and then now he has to beat Ace 10 and Queen 10, which is just going to be a challenge. So Ace King here, I'm going to do what all the geniuses do with Ace King and go all in. I can't really see what else, and definitely not with all the short stacks behind us. So we say GL, GL, and move all our chips in the middle with Ace King. He makes a queen here. We got to find an ace, a king, or a heart, and there's the red card. He's drawing dead on the turn. I say, see you later. And we pick up a nice little pot, up to 2.6 Milski. Okay, into the big blind now with the mighty 3-deuce offsuit. And now you say, J. Carver, I thought you edited out all the crap hands that you don't play. I say, just wait, just wait. Fold to the small blind, who says, what to do with my 2.9 million? He just limps. I say, okay. I think 3-deuce, you could arguably like bluff raise pre-flop with 3-deuce. It would be totally acceptable. But I think I just check. What a nice flop we've made here with our little 3-deuce offsuit. Backdoor flush draw. I mean, we have backdoor straight draw, but so does he. And most notably, 2 pair. And now our opponent bets. And in my youth, I would be way too excited about this. I'd be like, raise, we have 2 pair. Come on, raise. 420, perfect size. You can see I think about it, but no. I actually think we just call. I think we just call here and kind of set the trap a little bit. I mean, this is not an amazing hand because a 5, an ace, a 4, a 6 are all not great. A heart is not great, but a heart is okay. I have a heart myself, so that's not the worst thing in the world. But a little something dicey, I just call here on the flop. Not something that I have, and I think I raise sometimes in this situation, like legitimately as part of my strategy, I'm supposed to raise, but I and this time just called. And now on the turn, I say, okay, let's think about this. There's 750K in the pot. I have 2.4 million behind, so there's like a third of my stack in the middle already, and this hand definitely needs some protection. How often am I going to be as strong as 2-pair in this spot when I check pre and call the flop? Like, how many 2-pair do I have, really? Like, I do have some straights, I guess, that would play this way, that don't need any protection, that would also call again. But at this point, I really feel like I should probably just be raising. And if I'm going to raise, am I really going to pick a size like 700K? Because it puts him in a tough spot if he has a single 9, which is very possible, or even a hand like 4 or 5. If I make it 700K and he calls, it's a little dicey, I think. So there is some merit to making a small raise here, and I'm not sure that that's not the best play, but I kind of prefer shoving for some of the reasons I had touched on already. So we think about it. What should we do? I don't know. We mouse over his name, which I don't think says anything on WSOP.com. And then I say, his notes. I don't know what his notes say because it doesn't capture in the pop-up. But yeah, we're all in. I think this makes perfect sense to me. Now our opponent goes in the tank. Our opponent has to be a little bit concerned because we could have literally the nuts, right? 5-6 offsuit, checks pre, and calls the flop. So we could have, actually, I guess we probably would just call the turn, but even that 5-6 no heart might shove turn also. So a little bit worrisome for our opponent. He does fold, and we pick up a nice little pot there, given that we had 3 deuce offsuit. King 10 now for us in the button. If it folds to us, we have a very automatic all in. And if anybody raises, I think we probably just fold. And here we are. King 10, just by the merits of being King 10, is going to be better than 2 guys in the blinds that have low cards. We do flop a king here. Can we hold? He has a club draw and a gut shot and an overcard. And he gets there. Okay, fair enough. Ace 10 is better than King 10. So nothing we can do there. We must shove. Our opponent must call. I say nice hand, and we move on. In these sort of situations, it's one of the best things you can do is have a more resilient mindset than your opponents, because some people will shove in that situation, which is completely accurate and optimal, I should say, and then they get very upset afterwards. They're like detached from. They were like playing their A game, and now they're playing their C game because they're like, I flopped a king too. I was a 3-1 favorite, and I should have freaking won. It's important to not have this sort of feeling of like you deserved anything. Like you played your hand right. It is what it is. And now we're on a new hand. Why are you thinking about the last hand? It's easy to do as a poker player or as a gambler to focus on the results of what's happened, but it doesn't really help us make better decisions. So on to the next hand. And I do keep 100,000 back here because I think we're on a pay jump bubble. So I kind of reserve 100,000 in case my opponent shoves, and I want to kind of wait and see what the other table is doing and potentially make another pay jump, because we're talking about thousands of dollars in a potential pay jump. So we make it 2 million. I think this is extremely standard. Hijack opens, cutoff, shove for 20 big blinds seems right to me. Do. What are you gonna do? Into the tank. I think the hands he should be calling with here are like 7s or better, maybe even like 6s, maybe. Okay, we made it to no break. It's just a brief window. 12 players remain. We have guaranteed ourselves $9,254, and we are in 6th place. So half the players have more, half the players have less. Someone just busted right now, actually. So there's 11 players left. We're 3 off a WSOP final table. Can we do it and bring glory to the Haterade name? Yes, that's right. Why Haterade, you might say? Well, my favorite relief pitcher in all of baseball, Josh Hader. They do like these custom jerseys for players' weekends. And so his jersey, his name he opted into was Haterade. And I was like, wow, perfect. I love it. And so when I was making my name on WSOP.com, I said, perfect. Haterade it is. And now here we are. Raising it up with Jack 9 of hearts, and the button makes sense. This hand could definitely be played differently. I actually think there's some strong merit to just calling here on the button. If we call, we basically guarantee that we'll see a flop because probably neither player is going to shove. Whereas now we're in a bit of a dicey little situation because do I really want to play a 1.5 million chip pot with 1.5 million chips left with Jack 9 suited as we near the final table? So I actually think in retrospect, this could have definitely just been a spot where I just call the button. One of the things that I've added most to my game in the last 6 months of quarantine is understanding of when it's appropriate to open limp with these smaller stack sizes. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to engineer situations pre-flop where you get to see flops post-flop. It like artificially deepens your stack size when instead of putting in 2 big blinds to play, you're putting in 1 big blind to play. So if you have 15 big blinds, now I have potentially 15 plays versus 7.5. Obviously, it doesn't really work that way because as your stack size gets shorter, you're not going to make it 2, you're going to just shove. But, even if you say with 15 big blinds, you can limp 5 hands and potentially fold or whatever versus potentially just raising 2 hands before you're at the same stack depth. So under the gun, short stack makes it 2 big blinds. This is the guy we saw do some other things that were a little kooky. But in any case, I don't really think we have any other choice besides shoving, given that I only have 17-ish big blinds. It's like, what exactly else can I do here? I could just call, I guess, and hope someone does something silly, but I think if I call, what often happens is it goes call, big blind calls, but whoa, he wakes up and shoves, and then the other guy calls. We have Kappa Kipo offsuit. Can we hold here? He's got ace 5 offsuit, pocket queens. Can we fade an ace or a queen on the river for heaps? Whoo! For heaps! I'll take your chips. I'll take your chips. You're out of the tournament, by the way. And, okay, you get 500,000. That was like a party favor. Enjoy it. And just like that, we're the chip leader. 10 players left. We're in first. First place is like $170,000, which would be an amazing amount of money. Yeah, I guess that's the headline. So 2 players have over 4 million. 2 players have under 1 million, including the a Cuban sensation, Yoel Romero, as one of the short stacks, who is actually not Yoel Romero as far as I know, but a pretty good player and also a UFC fan, which is someone I can respect despite having never met them. So now we are the monster. Ace queen suited. What are you going to do? You're going to come from my big blind? I'm going to be raising, I guarantee you. So it's up to us to put the pressure on our opponents now, as we are 2 spots off that final table. And we have a nice opportunity here, right? We've got a good chance. 5 million chips and a dream, baby. Our button is all in. It doesn't matter what the small blind does, all in or fold, we're going to be calling, right? This is a very easy call if the small blind shoves with ace queen suited. And we've got a big pot here, guys. This would be a double knockout if ace queen suited can win. We have to call here. He does have pocket jacks, and ace is dead by the button. We got to find an ace or a queen, and that's all it'll take to win this pot. And unfortunately, that is not what happens. So Jax is going to get a full double up from us and bust AC NYC. Not ideal. But we can't do anything about that, right? The button's going to be shoving a ton of hands, and because of that, the small blind is going to shove a ton of hands also, including many hands that we dominate. So there's nothing we can do about it. We say nice hand, and we go back to work. King deuce offsuit in the small blind here. I think we have 2 choices. One is limp, and one is raise. I think it's close between the 2. I certainly don't mind limping. And now you could bluff or check. I think both are fine. The issue with checking is that you really can't check call with this hand. At least I wouldn't think I could. Do I? That seems a little dicey. Okay, yeah, I think check fold is fine if I check, and that's kind of why maybe I should bet instead with my exact hand, because it's not good enough really to check call. So I could have bluffed with it, but instead I just check fold, which is permissible, although perhaps not ideal. Acey deucey of hearts. I think this probably just a min raise. I was going to say it might be a shove, really? I was going to say it might be a shove, but I think it's really close. Because effectively I'm shoving for like 23 big blinds, which is certainly fine with ace-2 suited. Not a hand I can raise and then call a shove with, of course, but it is going to be favored against the small blind and the big blind. So I know I can shove in this situation, mathematically speaking, barely, I think, given how many big blinds the small blind has. But maybe it's a little better for us to min raise in this spot. Not really sure. Close. Ace-deuce offsuit in the big blind. I'm probably just planning to call here if min raises. If it folds into the river raises, I think we probably just call also. This is not going to be a raising hand, probably. If our opponent limps, it's definitely debatable to raise here. Like, odds are we have the best hand with ace-deuce offsuit. Just having any ace against one opponent is probably good enough to raise in a limped pot, but I am fine with checking this hand also, especially because we're on the bubble, right? The other table is 5-handed. We're 4-handed. This is the big stack. I'm not really looking to play a big pot right now. I'm kind of looking to play a survival type game against this opponent and then put pressure on the other two guys. So I do think that checking makes sense. And now I think we check this flop. I don't see much merit in betting. He's not going to fold any pair. And if he doesn't have a pair, we probably have the best hand. Queen of Hearts, another not great card for us. Of course, a little scary. But if our opponent bets, there could be some merit in bluff raising or somehow calling, but I'm very happy to see a check, and I'm going to give him a check back almost for sure. And now at this point, I mean, you could arguably bluff the turn in this situation, turn this hand into a bluff, and maybe he folds like ace-5, maybe he folds like ace-jack, maybe he folds like 6-7, maybe something like that. But instead, I just check down and we do beat king high and make the final table. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we did it. 8 players left. We're in 4th place. It was nice to be chip leader, but we were only there for like 2 seconds. So we're guaranteed $15,000 already. That's real money, baby. This ain't no Play Money stream or YouTube video we're watching here. So we're in 4th place, 8 left. There's one big stack, but a lot of parity, right? There's a lot of evenness around average, which is 3.4 million. We have a little bit less than average. I like my chances. I don't really know too many of my opponents here. I do know that I think Into the River is somebody who I did know. I knew their name, and we've been playing with Gone Bananas for a little while, and Ba and McMeister as well have been around. COVID-19, that's new. I never saw that person before. Johnny G93 sounded familiar to me, but I obviously have no note, and so don't really know anything. And then Poke These was also new to me, but I had noticed that Poke These had a lot of chips earlier, which might have been why I was watching his table, which might be how I have a note on him. And you might be like, oh, everybody else has a white note. Why does he have a red note? Well, I think he has a red note because I wanted to make sure that I read the note before I played a hand against him. And you'll just have to see for yourself why. He made some decisions that I felt were important for me to remember if I were to have the chance to play with him. So as you can see, this is the first hand in the final table. Our Gone Bananas wins a very big pot here to go up to 4.3 Milski. And a little while later, our first hand of the final table, Ace-King offsuit, is a pretty nice one. We have about 26-ish big blinds up against the big stack in the big blind, given, I guess, how these chips have moved around a little bit. There's a lot of chips on our left, though, right? 4.2, 3.5, 5.1, 5.5. And like, we're fine, but a lot of chips behind us. Small blind calls, big blind calls. Not exactly the flop you want with Ace-King offsuit. Our opponents both start with a check, and I think this is an extremely standard check. This is a way better flop for the small blind and the big blind than it is for me as pre-flop raiser, and because we have that backdoor diamond draw and 2 good overcards, I think we want to just check the flop and see if we can hit a diamond, ace, or a king. I turn a gut shot here, but I think we just have to fold. This is just too scary of a situation, too dangerous for us to call here and just hope we... If you're not going to make a queen, what are you hoping for? Ace, king, he blasts it, then what? Right? Diamonds also, or clubs, not great either. And because we have a diamond and a club, it's more likely that he has a made hand already. So I think we just fold. No questions there. There is, I guess this hand is, okay, I think I remember now why I included this hand in there. So McMeister is all in. Big blind has a very nice price to call here, 500,000 to win $1 million. So getting 2 to 1. When you're getting 2 to 1, you basically should call with any 2 cards. And I like Poke These as call here. And McMeister doubles up, though. You can see Poke These has won some chips since last time we saw. Into the River and Poke These have 13 million. And the rest of us do not have 13 million, I don't think. 6, 9, 10. I guess we have about that combined. Okay, shove and a shove. We must fold 5, 7 of spades, even though it's a pretty hand. King on the turn for ba is going to get it done here, and McMeister will end up with nibbles of chips or nothing. Nothing. Okay, we lose McMeister in 8th place. Payout ladder. Get those ladders out. So now here we are down to the final 7 of a WSOP event. Chip leader raises under the gun. We have pocket 9s with about 15 big blinds in the cutoff position. I think there's only one option here. You can see I already go to it immediately. Pocket 9s is just way too favored, and the guy who's the chip leader is probably going to be raising a lot of hands. So he raises, we shove, and now we just pray. Don't have a better hand, please. And can't do anything about this, right? There's no merit to doing anything else. Like, we're the shortest stack. We're in last place before this hand, and there's just not much we can do here besides shove. And then await our decision. Okay. Moving along here, quick. So we're in 7th place. Now I'm guaranteed $20,691. And we are basically the king of the short stacks right now. 4 short stacks, all about 2.8 to 2.2 million, including us at the top of the heap at 2.8 million. Everybody chasing into the river and Poke These, though, who both have a lot of chips. Wouldn't it be nice if I had a producer here that would just switch back? No. Instead, I got to fast forward myself or just chill. Okay, boom. 7 deuce, not going to do it. Let's see this hand, because obviously it doesn't involve us. Definitely a situation where the 2 million chip stacks have to be careful, right? Because it's a bit of a folding race to some extent between the 4 short stacks. Queens against ace king here. Nice flop for ba. Makes a set of queens. Johnny G got to find a spade here to stay alive, and there's no spade coming. So Johnny G eliminated in 7th place. And just like that, we are down to the final 6 of this WSOP event. My first WSOP final table since 2000 and I would guess 13 or 14. It's been a while for me since the last time. I haven't played every single World Series of Poker schedule the last few years when I was working more in the studio and behind the scenes stuff, but definitely been a lot of fun for me to play some of these events, and a lot of poker this year generally, since that's all you can do is play online poker. And as you guys know, it's been not the year we all anticipated, but it's been a lot of fun for me to play in these events, and cool to make a final table here. And hope you guys have enjoyed it. Ace Jack versus Ace King here, and there's a Jack. This is a huge pot. Raise. Gotta find a diamond. No, diamond's not any good. Had to find a king. So yeah, that would have been a massive pot. Would have had 10 million chips almost, and COVID would have been out. It would have been a pay jump for us, but instead he gets very lucky. And here we are now in the big blind with 10 Dewey, the Doyle Brunson in the big blind, and we're going to call. Start with a call here. As the shortest stack, basically, I'm incentivized to gamble a little bit, and so gamble we shall, and you can see I'm hovering for luck, and call. Not exactly the flop of our dreams. Backdoor straight draw, backdoor flush draw, and we have an overcard. Yes, don't forget the 10 of clubs, the mighty 10 of clubs. So we turn a flush draw. That's not a bad card for us. I think when he checks the flop, I typically think he has a lot of marginal hands that are trying to get to showdown. Could be like ace deuce, ace 5. Could be a hand like ace king, ace queen, ace jack. All those hands make sense to me. And I think I like betting half pot here on the turn. I could do this with a variety of pairs, some straight draws, some flush draws. And generally, I think this is just going to be a better board for the big blind than the button. I'm not sure how much he folds here, but he still could, right? If he has ace 6 of diamonds, is he really going to call now on the turn? I didn't think so. But he calls. This is a scary river for both of us, but mostly for him. I'm the one that has 5-6. I could have jack 10 here sometimes, and I think that it sucks a little bit that I have clubs, of course, because that's less likely that he has clubs that might fold. But I still think, especially having the 10, I think the 10 is kind of not like a critical card, because I would probably still be forced into bluffing here if I had Jack Deuce. But with 10 Deuce, I think I'm particularly forced into shoving here as a bluff. I don't think I want to bet 800K or 600K, although I see the merit in betting kind of small. I think we're supposed to just move all in here and shove. And I mean, he could have some hands that are pretty good. Maybe he has a set that calls the flop and then, that checks the flop and just calls the turn. I think that sets might raise the turn given the flush draw and the straight draws, but maybe not. Maybe he just traps us there. Maybe he just has a hand like ace 9, checks the flop, turns a pair, and now maybe calls the river. But even like ace 9, I think would call me, but would queen 9? Would jack 9? Would 9-6 suited? I'm not so sure that all those hands find calls anyway. And if he finds folds with some of his marginal pairs and then also folds all his ace highs and potentially hands like king jack of clubs, stuff like that too, I think our shove will work often enough to make money. So did I find the courage to press the button? Yes, I did. This one I remembered. So we're all in. It's a WSOP final. He already folded, but you know, that would have been a fun moment. That's why you play poker, boys and girls. It's not to make royal flushes. Anybody can make a royal flush. But can you bluff your opponent on the river with 10 high after talking for an hour and a half straight without taking any water? I don't know. It's very hard to do these things in combination. So got him, and nice little win for us there. Pocket fives with a short stack on the button and 2 big stacks behind us. I am totally fine with shoving here for 16 big blinds. I don't think I really want to do much else. Do you really want to make it 400K and face shove? I don't think so. I think we just say, do I have the best hand more likely than not right now? Yes, I do. And yes, we do move all in. Boom. The queen deuce, not going to cut it. Folds over to the small blind. I don't mind this size. 600,000 is fine. Got to remember at this point, I think I've been playing for 8 hours at this point, and I think that 111 might be the time at the top right of the window of the table. So I think it might be 1 a.m., which I say this because some of these people are in New Jersey, which means it's 4:10 on like a Tuesday or something. So at this point, I kind of suspect that the people in Nevada have an edge, because if you're in New Jersey, you're working any kind of normal job, and now it's 4 a.m. and now come the big stakes decisions, that's a tough situation. It's definitely an edge for those that are not delirious. So right now, big pot here. This pot went half pot on the flop, I think, half pot on the turn. Poke these raised pre, I know that for a fact. It was 600K call, and then must have been, oh wow, quick shove on the river on the spade. This is a massive pot into the river. Had like 6 million chips, and now is facing a shove for getting 4 to 1. Got to call 2 million to win 6 million. And this is just so sickening. No matter what into the river has, it clearly isn't a flush. It's just like, God, we put so many chips into this pot and getting nothing out of it. And not only that, he's going to become the second shortest stack here. Like, this is a brutal situation for into the river, no matter what he has. Maybe he had like ace 5, ace deuce, right? Calls pre, calls the flop, calls the turn, and now is here getting 4 to 1 on the river. You're just like, how is this guy ever bluffing? What does my opponent have? But it's just like such a sick spot at a WSOP final table. So I definitely don't mind the tanking here. You know, this is a high stakes spot, right, for tens of thousands of dollars. Even his remaining stack is still worth tens of thousands of dollars. So, yeah, tough situation here. Maybe he should have made a different decision on earlier street. But if he did have a hand like ace 5 or even a hand like ace 10, ace jack, like what else could he have done? he can't really raise pre. I find calling to be the most reasonable play, and then flop, call, turn, call, and now you're here on the river, and you're just like, I mean, maybe you do decide on the turn because the pot is already so big and you don't want to see a spade or some other cards come off. You can see I did have a queen here, which doesn't really mean much, but does make it less likely he had ace queen. And you can see with that pot, Poke These has 11 million chips. Crazy. I think we're just all in here with ace jack on the button. No real other choice with 14 big blinds. This is not really a hand I want to min raise, especially with the small blind having only 1.6 million. I think we're just going to shove and no questions asked. Poke These under the gun with all his chips makes it $1 million. Now he has 12 million chips, makes it $1 million straight, makes it 5 big blinds. We have absolutely no choice whatsoever. We must be all in with ace king here, and then just hope he either finds a full, which would be great given the stack. We would be up to almost second place, but he has pocket tens. We got to find an ace or a king to stay alive in this tournament. Can we find some help? Unfortunately, no help for us. So I guess we make a pair of sevens, which is useless help when our opponent has 2 pair. And that's it. GG. Poke These would go on to win this tourney. No surprise there with all those chips. And we end up cashing for $27,762.99. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. It was fun for me to kind of go over it with you guys. Every single hand that I played, I revealed to you guys. No secrets, basically. I guess you might have missed some hands that I didn't play, but you know, that's pretty good. I mean, how much can I do as the giving tree, really? If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave me a comment, especially if there were hands you thought I could have done something different on. I'll try my best to reply to a few of them, at least in the first few days the video is up. Let me know on Twitter at Jason Somerville if you enjoyed the video. You can join us on Discord. I think it's riudiscord.com, if I'm not mistaken. I think that link works to take you there. Otherwise, there'll be a link in the video description below also. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm not really sure how much more I'm going to do. I'm committed to not being committed to doing things. So if the mood strikes me, if I make a deep run, if I'm feeling like streaming, you might be able to catch me over on runitup.tv as usual, but I might make more YouTube videos too. I'm kind of in a place right now where I'm going to kind of do what I want. And today I wanted to make this video for you guys as a little bit of a pork chop and reconnection since it's been a little while. So thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I appreciate it. We'll see you back for more Running Up action very soon.